about 6, 7 months ago, I decided, I just got to learn everything I can about this. I went really, really deep. The first question I asked myself with any new technology is, what does this enable us to do today that we couldn't do yesterday?
What's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here with another episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass, a podcast for the agency owner that wants to scale and grow faster and really understand and learn the really amazing things that you can do to grow and scale your agency faster. And on today's episode, I have one of our good friends and mastermind members who's going to talk about how they're leveraging AI. How are they leveraging artificial intelligence? And every time we always have these group discussions around AI, we're all blown away by David of what he's doing in AI. So I think you guys are going to love this episode. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. Hey, David, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, I'm excited to have you on. So tell us who you are and what do you do?
Sure. My name's David Melamed, and I guess I do search engine marketing or, wherever emerging technology meets marketing. For the last year or so, I've been focused on the legal industry and mass torts. But in general, offline conversions, so multi-location brands, and really helping them close the loop in their marketing and using automation wherever we can to really help, the bidding algorithms or other things like that do a better job driving better results for them.
Cool. And how'd you get into digital marketing and doing everything that you're doing?
That's a really good question. So the first ad I wrote was probably when I was about 9 years old, selling pickles in school. I hung up flyers all over school.
What was the tagline?
I don't remember.
All us other people were like, I know what my tagline would have been, and I cannot repeat it on the show.
I think I just went straight to the point. Pickles, 35 cents, come find me.
Nice.
But I got shut down pretty quickly by bureaucracy. I didn't have a food handler's license and then had to find my way around that. So I started selling at the bus stop. And that's probably where I first got exposure to marketing. But I always wanted to build shopping centers for a living. And I went out and I got a job doing retail leasing. And I realized when I was there that all the retailers had these repeatable business models as long as they had the right demographics, the right accessibility and visibility of their retail locations, they could just open up another store there. And around that time, this is probably 2005, something clicked in my head about search engines being all the right elements for shopping centers. I'm like, why would I want to go build these brick and mortar shopping centers if I can just master search engine marketing, SEO, and paid search? And I proactively pursue the job in this space. I actually applied for a job and was told I didn't know enough and they weren't going to hire me. And I begged them to re-interview me in 2 weeks. And I spent the next 2 weeks just reading everything I could, mostly Aaron Wall's book on SEO and a whole bunch of other things online, just going down that rabbit hole. And 2 weeks later, I went for an interview and I probably knew more than them. Although now I know, which is very different than actual, hands-on in the trenches experience. But it was enough to convince them that I was gonna, really work hard at making it work. And so landed that job. So that's kind of how I got started on the marketing side. And starting my agency, honestly, lost the job and started taking in some freelance.
Yeah. I love it, how it all starts. And I can't believe they didn't let you sell pickles at 9. I mean, are they going after all the kids selling lemonade, and at their lemonade stands? I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I don't know. I know that we were packaging it. I was buying these big barrels at like Sam's Club. It was the best. I had the best margins. My parents paid for it, and I kept all the money I made. So 100% profit. It was a great business. I think it was because I was individually wrapping them in Ziploc bags and doing it at home. Also, it's a Jewish school. Maybe there was like a kosher concern, or maybe it was just maybe they just hate kids. I'm not quite sure.
That might have been it. I remember my oldest son, when he was around that age, he wanted this Lego set, and I said, and maybe we'll put this in the show notes, or it might get taken down. It was kind of funny, but I said, if you want these Legos, you have to come up with a business plan in order to, save up for it. So he drew out this business plan, and one was watering plants. So he drew what he tried to draw out like a watering can, but it looked like a pickle. And then the other part was a flower, which looked like a V, and he had it like touching. And I literally about fell on the ground. And I'm sorry, this whole podcast is going downhill. I'll get to the point in a second. But after he realized he couldn't make much money doing the watering, he did his lemonade stand, and we had him a green, tractor. And so him and his younger brother, sat on it. They put a cooler on the back with lemonade and drove around. Well, they sold more money getting pictures of them driving around town than lemonade, which is kind of funny. So
that is really funny.
Let's talk about kind of what people are listening to the show, because they don't want to hear about pickles, watering flowers, or lemonade tractors. How are you leveraging AI? Because every time we chat about AI with you, I'm always just so fascinated. I'm like, what? Like, I thought I was ahead, but like, I feel like you're 10 times ahead of everybody else. So how are you leveraging AI right now?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The first thing I would just say is that to me, AI it's not really a pivot from what I've been doing all this time. I've never been good at scaling a team. And so I had to scale with automation. And I remember probably about 6-7 years ago, it was my largest client that I had for a bunch of years. They actually, after COVID, they eventually shut down that department. But it was a realtor with 430 offices, and they had a massive lead network internally that fed all their offices with leads. And they had an employee quit on them. And this employee was manually building out campaigns. They were opening offices every week, closing offices every week, and different reporting requirements. And there was literally 1.5 employees full-time work just building this out. And it took us time to build it, but we automated almost the entire thing and gave ourselves real-time, adjustments. So we just pulled in the feed every day of all their offices and deployed campaigns. And if listings weren't there in certain markets, those keywords got paused. We built this whole massive bid management system for them. And so it probably goes back to just my childhood. I was honestly always looking for the shortcut. And this was, it was easier for me to master automation and find a team of really awesome people with data than it was to master people and train them. And I don't have the patience for that most of the time. So when AI came along, it was just kind of natural for us to dive in. I remember the first few months, I kind of passively, I thought, okay, there's something here, but, I want to focus on high quality and what users really want. I didn't really go deep into it. And then probably about 6-7 months ago, I decided, I just got to learn everything I can about this. So I went really, really deep. The first question I asked myself with any new technology is, what does this enable us to do today that we couldn't do yesterday? What most people do is they look for the low-hanging fruit. They look at, what am I doing right now that I can now let AI do? So that's why the vast majority of the use cases seem to be around content. If I'm writing emails or I'm writing things, what can I do? But one thing is, I'm not a developer, and I am right now building and running software code scripts on my computer every day that ChatGPT wrote for me. They're probably not secure to deploy. They're probably not good enough to sell. I'll just give you one very simple example. Right this minute, I had to build out a scraper for a massive website with about 10 million pages. And all the tools keep on timing out. It takes too long to do. And so I had to kind of reverse engineer their URL structure. And I've got 2 scripts running on my computer right now. That's basically, I was able to deconstruct how their URLs were created. And, these are location-based URLs. And just using Python and a script that I don't even know what it's doing. Somehow I'm ending up with these spreadsheets with like all these URLs. And then we can now, on top of that, use, I'm using a tool called Horseman for my scraping, which I found on GitHub. I never looked at GitHub before I had ChatGPT. Now I literally just copy and paste the GitHub page and say, tell me how to use this. Pretend, I basically say, I'm a newbie on a MacBook Pro. I don't know what I'm doing. Tell me how to run this software. And it tells me how to run it step by step. And I've never opened the terminal on my computer 4 or 5 months ago. And now I'm in it doing 20, 30 things a day with it. So I'm getting massive leverage from it just by asking for help in things that I'm doing and things I don't understand, things I want to learn. I don't have to go hire somebody or delegate it. I just have to, kind of know how to ask the question. So that's generically how I'm using it. I believe, I have it on the home screen of my phone. I have multiple large language models. I have them on my computer, opening a tab at all times. And I fell in love with Notion.ai, which is just so seamless and it's really great.
Tell us more about Notion AI. How are you using it?
Probably my entire career was built around helping other people with small projects. If I know how to do something, I don't mind sharing. If it takes 5 minutes of my time, the goodwill or karma that I create from that will pay me back, even if it's 5 years later through a referral from someone else. I'm a very big believer in just kind of, I guess, just laying the groundwork for future karma to pay me back. And so I was asked by somebody, I run a couple WhatsApp communities. One of them is around AI prompt sharing. And someone in the group said he has a 17-year-old son who's doing some stuff on Amazon. And he wanted to know if I could speak to him for 5-10 minutes. He needs help with something. And he's doing Amazon to Walmart marketplace arbitrage. So he's basically drop shipping from Amazon. So he's finding products that are on Amazon that aren't listed right now or are sold out on Walmart marketplace. He's listing them on Walmart, and then when the orders come in, drop shipping it from Amazon to the buyer. And he has some software that helps him with it. It sounds like, I don't know if there's a lot of money to be made here. Technically, it's probably against Walmart's terms of service, but the challenge is that there isn't a clear identifier in the Amazon URLs and the Walmart URLs. So he has a list of Amazon products, but he now has to find those URLs on Walmart. And there's tools he could pay for, but this is a 17-year-old kid trying to figure out how to do it himself or what can be done. And Notion, it's really a dynamic, it's almost like a canvas that you could do anything with it. So it's not just like, text-based. They have like tables and spreadsheets built in there too. So I said, shoot me over a list of 10 of your Amazon URLs. So he sent me a list of that. And I dropped it I uploaded in Notion as a CSV. It immediately created a table. I added one cell to it. And they have a feature right there where I could just add an AI prompt into the cell. And I just typed in, find me because ChatGPT wasn't going to search the web for him this way, or was throwing up problems that was working originally. I basically just typed in to, the first cell, find me the corresponding product using this URL or title on Walmart.com, and put it in the cell. And then in the next cell next to it, I typed in, click on the link to make sure that it actually resolves to a real place and isn't a hallucination, basically. And then with like one more click, I was able to basically extend that to all 10 rows. And I don't know, maybe 15 seconds later, we had probably 8 out of the 10 URLs found and correct in there. So it's just very versatile that you could do all sorts of things with. And this is before Code Interpreter came out with OpenAI, with ChatGPT, which, for the people that are using 3.5, they're not paying for the ChatGPT Plus for GPT-4. It's a mile and a half difference. You're really missing out. 3.5 is good for certain things, but the quality level is just, it's night and day. There's a reason it's 10 times more expensive. So that's one example of what I was able to do with Notion AI. It's the other thing I really love about it is I think AI today has what I call a last mile problem, where it gives you a great output, but if it's not in the place where you're using the output, now you have to copy and paste it, or like you really want some, right now today, I think these large language models are probably good at replacing 30% of any workflow that someone has. If you just went through your SOPs, there's probably 30% of those steps you can automate now with these tools, but you need it to integrate with your systems. And people using Zapier, like, that's expensive. Make is much cheaper, and I prefer that. But Notion, you're working in the final product where you can now publish this live. You can whatever you want to do with it. It's very versatile. So I really love and it's so quick. Whatever, I don't know what they're using for their large language model under the hood, but it's really quick. But so that's generally how I'm using it. But the use case that I'm actually really interested in, that I'm enjoying right now, is data extraction. So one of the things I'm trying to analyze is legal dockets, court cases. An example is the Camp Lejeune lawsuits. So they're starting to make a lot of progress with what's going on with consolidating those cases in North Carolina. And I want to publish stories before anybody else does about the latest, progress in the lawsuit. And it's not easy to do. And I'm not a journalist, and I'm not an attorney. So I'm starting to figure out how to basically, I can't just always upload a PDF and expect it to fully understand it. The way that they chunk, the way they break up these larger documents isn't always the smart or best way. I don't think we're quite there yet. Legal is more complicated in general. So the type of prompts I'm writing now are text extraction and text classification prompts, where essentially I'm saying, in this body of text, please extract the plaintiff's name, the plaintiff's attorney's names, the court, the judge, the lawyer, and output it in a structured JSON format, and tweaking my prompt to actually do this reliably. And I use a really cool tool called Prometheus, which is a prompt engineering tool. And it lets me, every time I make a little change to a prompt, it records it as a different version. It lets me mark how the outputs are. And then it also lets me create prompt fragments that I can now reuse. So whether it's the system message, act like a data extraction expert or whatever I'd be using there, but getting it to understand language in a way that can actually extract information from other things is not easy. They do a good job with summarization. They do a good job with repurposing, but I'm trying to build structured data sets from unstructured data. And right now, legal data is so expensive because of how expensive it is to gather all that information and process it, understand it, organize it. It's a really difficult and expensive process. And large language models now have the capability. This is something that I couldn't do yesterday. That business model of even buying data in general can become nearly obsolete in a few years because of how these tools can now enable you to extract things from unstructured formats that yesterday you couldn't. So a lot of the scrapers today, you're using ChatGPT to write a code snippet that scrapes, but you still have to know which snippet on the page to grab and things like that. Whereas with a large language model cycling through it, you can now just say, go to these 1,000 web pages or 1,000,000 web pages and pull out this information and put it into a structured format that I can build into a database and now publish journalism around it, or do data science or marketing strategy, find keywords, things like that. So I'm really excited for those kind of opportunities, but it's all just experimentation, trial and error, and being willing to figure it out. But I always was looking for leverage, and I find I'm 10 times more creative than I ever was. And I always consider myself a creative person. People think that all the arguments I hear about, it's going to make people dumb. They're going to stop thinking, stop doing things. And I find it to be a multiplier. It's like a huge magnifying glass that just helps anybody be 10x better if they really want.
So I was, after we had our discussion in the mastermind about AI, I sent the recording to my son. He's 17. He's in high school. And I said, Luke, you need to understand this. I know high school and all the schools right now is against it, which I think is the dumbest thing they could ever do, right? Because they should be using it as a resource. We want to create people that know how to find things and how to create amazing things. And this allows us to do that. And I said, I want you to figure this out. And then I also started messing around with my own prompt because, there's all these people creating their own prompts and selling prompts and all this kind of stuff. And I basically created this, and I'll share this with you, David, and anybody. If you guys want to just email me at jason@jasonswank.com. I'm not going to spam you. Like, that's my personal email. So I want to reward you guys for listening. If you just say prompt engineering creator, I basically created this. It's probably this paragraph this long where it's saying like, hey, I want to become an expert prompt creator. And let me tell you what I'm wanting you to do. And I want you to ask questions until you feel like you have enough information and then output whatever I want. And then I've also in this one chat just kept feeding in data from why people bought from us. I'm trying to connect it into this from the CRM into it, all these kind of things. Like I'm even connecting it to, I always talk about case stories, right? Of, mastermind members having success. So I brought all those stories in. So then I can go create me an email for this, this, and this, and tell a couple stories. And it literally does it all. And then I can even say, write in the tone of Jason Swenk, so it has bad grammar and bad spelling, or Dan Kennedy, or Coolio, or whoever it is, right? So it's amazing. It's my favorite thing. My team calls it my best friend, which Aspen, my dog, is my best friend. That's just a really good friend. So it's just really pretty neat.
Yeah, that's really awesome. That sounds like a really cool prompt. I experimented with something a little similar with Simon Sinek's Find Your Why. I created a prompt that asks you a bunch of questions and it helps distill down that why statement. It does a pretty good job.
It's unbelievable. Well, I mean, this has been amazing. I love talking about AI and technology and how people are using it. So we have to have you back on in a couple of months if you want to come back on and talk about how things are changing. I think that would be a really amazing. You could be our leading expert in the AI future stuff. Is there anything I didn't ask you, David, that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
Yeah, I mean, I want to just share something about my journey in your mastermind for the last, I don't know, I'm probably in there now for 4 or 5 years almost.
Yeah, you're one of the OGs, yes.
Which it's been amazing. And like there was a time where I couldn't get past mental blocks around like pricing. Like I couldn't charge more than $3,500 a month for paid search. And within about a year of being in the mastermind, I reached the point where I was able to quote $20,000 a month or more without breaking a sweat and knowing that they were still getting a great deal. And so all those things are really helpful. But I want to share the first in-person experience we had, because that was something that a lot of people don't realize. And I think if I was going to give advice to anybody, even myself 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it would be this, which is everybody's going through the same struggle. They're just framing it a little bit differently. The packaging around it's a little different. We're all humans. We all want to feel appreciated, understood. We're all afraid of, have our impostor syndrome, or we're self-sabotaging in certain ways. And I went to that first in-person meeting and I was just sitting there observing these agency owners, and I felt like an imposter because I didn't have a bunch of employees. And, I had a decent amount of revenue, but was I just a freelancer, or was I just a consultant, or was I an agency? And, and at the end, it's you are whatever you want to be. There's no one has to die to make you king. But what I noticed in that room as people were going around, there's one question everybody asked, and they asked it in a different way. Every question was different. Every challenge was different, but it was always the chicken and egg. I need more sales, or I need better help with operations. I can't sell enough. I'm selling too much demand, and I'm not going to be able to handle service delivery. And you had an insight, I don't know if it was there or other times, which is that's actually the job of sales and operations departments, is to break each other's department. Sales should be breaking your operations department, and operations should be breaking your sales department if they're functioning, on all cylinders. But what was really important was that peer group, was recognizing that I'm sitting around the table and some of these people are in very different places than me. And the only thing that gets in the way is ego. And my ego was getting in the way at first from connection in a serious way. But once you get past that insecurity and you realize that you're all humans in the same place, dealing with the same challenges, you realize that these mastermind groups, and you're specifically, I think it applies to many others, are invaluable having that peer group of just like people that are going through the same thing as you, that can relate to, that can help you feel normal. Honestly, I think that it's invaluable. And then the other thing, which maybe you don't want me addressing, but I want to address, which is really important, which is, the price of some of these masterminds is a feature. It's not an expense, it's a feature. When people are investing heavily in being in a peer group, everybody's invested in getting the most out of it. And when everybody's invested, that's when you get the most. You get out what you put in. And so it's a feature. And that's an insight that my older brother gave me. And this is from his experience being in YPO. And it really, like, any entrepreneur I meet anywhere at any stage, and I deal with a lot doing marketing, my number one piece of advice is to go find a peer group of people, not a networking group where people are selling each other, a peer group. It's life-changing. And it's probably the biggest multiplier that happened in my agency that got me from where I was and helped me break through all those fake walls and ceilings I put up in front of myself. So I just, maybe take this opportunity to say thank you. But if I was going to leave people with anything, that's what I really want to leave them with. Forget AI. There's humans at the end of the day that you have to worry about. But find those people going through the same thing you're going through, and it'll just having that there, even if you don't use it, that safety net, that it matters. It really does, and it really helps.
I appreciate that. And it's been an honor to get to know you over the years and watch you grow and watch you go from this to this. It's just been amazing. And you helping all the members out on the technology and the AI, and always taking time to help people out. And that's really what we're always, looking for, and what we're about is just putting amazing people together where, they can create some amazing things. And I know, Audra always talks about this, and other people. It's kind of like laying on the couch when things are bad, of going, dude, like, things are really bad. And then people are like, whew, hey, yeah, we've been through that, or yeah, I'm going through that now. And you're like, oh shit, I'm not alone. So that's like, you're not in the plane alone by yourself where you're going to die. You have someone else, which today, everybody, was my first solo day. My instructor was watching me from the runway. And I was like, so you have at least a backup. Today, I did not have a backup, but I lived, and we're on the podcast together. So what's a website people can go and check you out, or how can they find you on LinkedIn?
DavidMelamed.com has some of my older podcasts on writing. It's all up there. You could kind of get a glimpse into how I think. But find me on LinkedIn, and that's where I've been sharing content for the last bunch of years. But I'm very easy to find. David Melamed. Just Google me. Awesome. That's Melamed, if you need to know how to spell the last name.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, David, for coming on the show. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you reach out, tell him hello. If you guys do want the prompt script, email me. I'm happy to email that to you. And then if you guys do want to be in an amazing mastermind with David and other amazing agency owners, I invite all of you to go check out agencymastery360.com and just click on Scale Your Agency. And we'll have a blueprint. We'll have a clarity call with you, help you out, point you in the right direction. That's the worst that would happen. And then if we do think you'd be perfect and you want to join, we'll invite you to join. So easy enough. And until next time, guys, have a swank day.